Welcome back to The Wandering Screen. I'm Matt Koss, and today we're going to be looking at one of my favourite films from 2023, The Holdovers. Throughout my teenage years, my mum and I would frequently watch Bridget Jones's Diary. It's our comfort movie. It has the smarmy Hugh Grant, the lovable Renee Zellweger, Gabrielle's Out of Reach, Van Morrison on the soundtrack, and it's got lines so quotable that we still say them today. It's like when she's running late, I'll always say to my mum, "Come the fuck on, Bridget." It's rare these days that we'll find a movie that I can't wait to rewatch, and this one really moved me. Alexander Payne's latest feature, The Holdovers, is a coming-of-age comfort food that will be worth revisiting. In The Holdovers, we followed the unlikely friendship between a terse teacher, a grieving cafeteria manager, and a wayward student over the Christmas break in 1970 Massachusetts. The film premiered at the 50th Telluride Film Festival and has received 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. It hits that sweet spot of nostalgia and is totally charming. The film stars Paul Giamatti, who plays Paul Hunnam, a stern and unforgiving classics teacher at Barton Academy, an all-boys boarding school, who is forced to look after a handful of students left behind over the end-of-year break. We first meet Paul in his apartment overlooking Barton Academy's courtyard, grading papers and smoking a pipe. It's the final day of school before the winter break, and the ground is frozen from the snow, and there's an excitement in the air, with students eager to leave campus with their families for 2 weeks. Hunnam is interrupted by Miss Crane, a delightful Kerry Preston, who tells him that the headmaster wants to see him immediately. Paul is suddenly handed the responsibility of looking after 4 students on school premises over the Christmas break. "It's not like you were leaving campus anyway," is how the headmaster frames it. Hunnam isn't pleased, but is a dedicated educator at the school for the last 25 years and wasn't leaving school for the holidays anyway. The headmaster knows that Hunnam has an alienating, unwavering adherence to rules and asks that he be a good human being to these kids. It is Christmas after all. Hunnam is left with a motley crew, including a sudden 5th holdover, Angus Tiller, newcomer Dominic Cesar, a strong student in Hunnam's classics class who has troublemaking tendencies. Gus's mother abandoned their Christmas plans to go on a belated honeymoon with her new husband, leaving Gus distraught and under Hunnam's care. As the holidays commence, Hunnam continues his staunch approach to teaching, adhering to a standard school schedule with time for studying and recreation outside in the freezing temperatures. But when one of the boys' fathers relents and arrives via helicopter to collect his son, the other boys receive parental permission to join them skiing for the break. However, Gus's mother isn't answering her phone, so only Gus is left behind holding over the Christmas period with an equally disappointed Hunnam. Writer David Hemmingson, who has written on TV shows like Whiskey Cavalier and The Catch, and director Alexander Payne, who previously directed Giamatti in the Oscar-winning film Sideways, aren't interested in grand gestures and even bigger speeches. They adore their characters and allow each of their stories to gradually reveal themselves as they become more comfortable around each other. There may not be some great big revelation in the end, but there is some course correcting that is long overdue and really creates that attachment to these characters. Hunnam rarely leaves school grounds and takes pride in being drawn to the aesthetic of being alone. His limbs are stiff, he drinks in excess, and his aspirations to travel and finish a monograph are fading along with his prime years. Mary is grieving from the tragic loss of her son Curtis in the Vietnam War. He was also a former Barton Academy student, and Mary is withdrawing from being with family. Then there's Gus, whose mother has recently remarried and worries that if he messes up again, he'll be sent to military school. The film is well anchored by Giamatti and Cesar, whose budding companionship is filled with plans and payoffs that bring out the idiosyncrasies in Hunnam and Gus. Like at one point, Gus points out that Hunnam has a weird smell, So before they head off to a Christmas party, Hunnam, without aftershave and without having gone out to get deodorant, decides to pick up some toilet refresher and sprays his underarms over his shirt. And it's such a small detail that is so in tune with this man who has unwittingly become a hermit. Giamatti plays this schlub with an external assertiveness, but a quiet humbleness that makes him easy to root for. He's as misunderstood as Gus, and he's so confident meandering in one direction that he doesn't realize he's been in his own way his whole life. Divine Joy Randolph shines in this film. She steals almost every scene she is in. That's why she's winning all the awards at the moment. Randolph starred alongside Zoe Kravitz in Hulu's High Fidelity series, and she played Charisse, an underdog whose dream of becoming a professional musician are constantly dismissed. And a second season was planned around Randolph's character, but the series, unfortunately, was cancelled. She also starred in HBO's misguided and thankfully limited series, The Idol, as a manager to an artist who is being swept into a cult. In both roles, she's high fashion, effortlessly confident and impulsive, but in The Holdovers, she's transformed with a slower pace and a character who has so much love to give the world, but is struggling to move forward. And a very small scene with Mary and her sister sitting on her bed laughing captures how much Mary needs to lean on her loved ones as she adjusts to a world without Curtis. As the holidays begin, Mary reminds Hunnam to not judge the boys at the boarding school. They mostly come from rich families, but their parents tend to hide them away at Barton Academy throughout the year. She tells him, "You don't know what someone else's life is like." It's a point she makes with compassion to Gus's loneliness, and one Hunnam can attribute easily to himself. It might just be the first time he's been humbled into self-awareness and compassion in a long, long time. And rewatching this film, it's even more delightful.
There'll be just one boy holding over this Christmas. Please, at least pretend to be a human being.
Mr. Hunnam isn't easy to like.
Do you think I want to be babysitting you? I could have been spending the rest of my vacation reading mystery novels.
But the New York Times, Vanity Fair, Entertainment Weekly, and top critics everywhere are falling in love with The Holdovers.
It's outside attention!
I thought all the Nazis were hiding in Argentina.
Stifle it, Tully.
Director Alexander Payne reunites with Paul Giamatti for the first time since Sideways, and the result is pure movie magic.
Hey there, handsome. You want a date?
We're finally getting to the good stuff.
The Holdovers is one of the finest of Payne's career. It's raucously funny and irresistibly entertaining. It's a perfect 10.
I think you're erratic and belligerent.
Are you trying to look down my shirt?
No. Yes, but you've got time to turn things around.
Yeah, I was going to tell you the same thing.
The Holdovers.
Thank you for joining me today. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more film reviews, and let me know your thoughts on the film in the comments section below. See you next time.